Let's talk about this Vice article really quick. So before I get started, I want to make a few things clear that I shouldn't have to. Child abuse and CP are not okay in any form. On all levels, including morally and rationally, the abuse of children is reprehensible and a net loss for all parties involved. Any action that is forced upon another individual and takes away their agency is wrong and should be prosecuted as such. And for those maniacs that like to make an argument that a minor was somehow okay with what was being done to them, I have objections to this on so many levels. To start, minors, especially when we're talking about young children, have brains that have not even been fully formed yet. Their capacity for rationality, impulse control, as well as understanding right from wrong are still developing, meaning they cannot even fully comprehend yet the actions and the damage being wrought upon them. Another reality is the grooming very much exists, and it's an unfortunate reality that many minors are taken advantage of by trusted adults whom they had thought had their best interest at heart, but in the end betrayed their trust in one of the worst ways possible. Another thing is that every individual's trauma response is unique. Some children may realize that what is going on is not right, but in order to make it out of the horrific situation they are in, they will play along with the perpetrator because they instinctively know that this may be their best and only chance to survive what is going on. There are so many reasons that that's a garbage argument that we could be here all day if we chose to solely unpack that, but we're here to talk about the Vice video article, so now that my disclaimer is out of the way, let's do that. My main issue with this piece was that from the very start, the entire endeavor seems like it was being done in bad faith. What I mean by that is that Vice staff, and particularly journalist Hanako Montgomery, seemed as though they entered into the subject with an agenda, and rather than coming at the issue and examining it like a layered and nuanced problem that it is, Vice just decided to find the most massive paintbrush in their arsenal and color the entirety of the Japanese manga industry with the same shade and hue, leaving no room to appreciate the complexity of what's going on. And before some bad faith commenter enters into the conversation saying something like, "So you're calling being against pedophilia an agenda?" If you had a modicum of respect for me as a human being and listened to anything I've said so far in the video, you would know that's not what I mean. My hope is that saying pedophilia is bad is an ice cold take that should go without saying. What I'm referring to are Hanako and the team at Vice's choice to frame the story in a way where they make it seem like all manga are these perverse tomes of lust and sacrilege, and the entire manga industry is filled with writers and illustrators whom are okay and advocates of child abuse. This is wrong on so many levels and extremely disrespectful to the manga industry, Japanese culture, and even Vice's own audience. One of the biggest issues with modern journalism today is the reliance on outrage clicks. With the advent of the 24-hour news cycle and the rapid spread of information because of the internet and social media, getting an individual to click on your article and listen to what you have to say has become a much more gargantuan task than it ever has at any point in human history. And because of this, reporters around the world have been working to find ways to make their articles stand out from the crowd to ensure that they have the highest chance of being seen amongst the infinite stream of information. This has led to marked increases in news outlets baiting the audience into giving them attention through the use of targeted and purposeful inflammatory headlines and news stories that they know will get readers talking. A thing doesn't die when individuals become mad or enraged with it, but when people cease talking about it. So to make sure this never happens, many news outlets are willing to make the most egregious statements they can legally get away with to get eyeballs on their work. I'm not here to judge that specific phenomena. The game is the game, but where problems begin to unfold is when accuracy and journalistic integrity is sacrificed in order to maintain this attention. And this is the no man's land where I feel Vice's manga industry article has fallen. Hanako and Vice knew good and well that a title as absolutely ridiculous as "Inside the Pedophilic Manga Industry" would instantly turn heads and spark discourse. It's a devilishly clever move because of how much it guarantees engagement and makes manga fans feel as though they need to poke holes in the untruths presented in the article to defend the integrity of the art that they love, as well as defend themselves against the ludicrous accusation that they might be a child abusing pervert because they like keeping up with One Piece. It also puts Vice in the position of being the morally righteous aggressor because anyone that tries to argue with them will be forced into the position of appearing as though they are attempting to defend pedophilia, and good luck not looking like a creepy asshole if that's the pedestal you're running on. But the worst part of all this is that there's a real conversation to be had here concerning the protections of the rights of women and children in Japanese legislation, but it's going to be buried and made irrelevant because of deliberate divisive tribalism through which the argument was framed by Vice. Instead of Vice and the audience having a dialogue about the realities of sex crimes in Japan and some of the sincerely harmful and terrible tropes that can rear its ugly head within in manga, the conversation will instead be inundated with defensiveness and vitriol, with one side accusing their opponents of various wrongs and transgressions, the other side doing the same, all the while the real victims continue to go voiceless and ignored in favor of virtue signaling and keeping a hold of those sweet outrage clicks. This is a pattern all too familiar in Western culture, where media often finds itself being the scapegoat so political parties can avoid discussing actual real-world issues and ignore the victims who are crying out for help and who are sick of the hollow thoughts and prayers given by the country's policymakers. Video games, rap, rock music, I'm looking at you. But what's nearly as egregious is Vice's flippant willingness to label the entire manga industry as pedophilic. Just think about how crazy and not okay that is for a minute. The manga industry is made up of so many different types of men and women and non-binary folk, and I'm sure many of them have wives, husbands, and children of their own. Calling an entire industry of people a cavalcade of sexual abusers is so insulting and lowbrow, I can't even really express it properly in words. There are likely many mangaka and those in the manga industry who have been victims of abuse or have had close loved ones abuse themselves, and to make it seem like each and every individual in the industry is like the mangaka that was interviewed in the article is slanderous and shameful. Hanako and Vice's overall approach taken to the subject felt disrespectful, mired in judgment and closed-mindedness from beginning to end. Such a complex issue deserves a more nuanced discussion, and I hope that the topic will be opened again in the future with a team that is more willing to do it justice. Thank you all for taking the time to listen, and I'll talk to you again in the next video.